Hello, God bless from Up Ministries. It's me, Dick Jr. I'm coming to you today to read you Joel chapter 1. That's Joel, not Joel. Okay, I'm just going to do this real quick. I usually don't do this, but see if we can pick this up. If you can see all the markings that I have in this section. So I would suggest, if you want to have some things cleared up in prophecy, and I think that there's things here that cry to the end because of some of the words that are given to us in this section, but it's a great place to try to start learning what all these things that you've read about throughout the Bible, they all come together, and you understand that this is not just talking about literal things, but also about spiritual things, and the vines that he's talking about and the fig trees that he's talking about are people, so in societies, like the Jewish people, things of that sort. So anyway, I prayed before I started this video and asked God to help me to speak with you, and I suggest that you pray and ask God for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, specifically whenever you place yourself in His Word. That there's a prayer such as that in Ephesians chapter 1, verses 16 and 17 by Paul for the church at Ephesia. So that being said, I didn't take any reference out of this, but like I said, there are a lot of things that I circled that have, this is a very interesting piece of prophecy by Joel, devastations of locusts, starvation and drought, is what my sections are headlined as. But as you go through here, you'll hear things, and if you know a little bit more about some of the other prophecies and some of the other words, this can be interpreted in a spiritual manner as well. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started. The word of the Lord that came to Joel the son of Pethuel. Hear this, O elders, and listen, all inhabitants of the land. I underline that, all inhabitants of the land. If you live on the land, you see what I mean? Yes. I think it was talking about at that time specifically Jerusalem, Israel, but I would suggest that this is for all inhabitants of the world, you see. Has anything like this happened in your days or in your father's days? And that is a question, and that's a question I'd like for all of us to sit down and think about, okay, as we go forward in time. Tell your sons about it, and let your sons tell their sons, and their sons the next generation, because things are happening that are different. What the gnawing locust has left, the swarming locust has eaten, and what the swarming locust has left, the creeping locust has eaten, and what the creeping locust has left, the stripping locust has eaten. I don't think this is talking about locusts. I think this is talking about men, or groups of men, one way or the other. Awaken drunkards and weep, or awake drunkards and weep. And this is talking about, I think, the whole world, because the Lord puts a drunken stupor on the world in other places within the Bible, and I think that's the drunkards that they're talking about here now at this point in time. And wail, all you wine drinkers, on account of the sweet wine that is cut off from your mouth. For a nation has invaded my land, mighty and without number. Its teeth are the teeth of a lion, and it has fangs of a lioness. It has made my vine a waste, and my fig tree splinters. It has stripped them bare and cast them away. This, I think, in verse 7, where it says that, is talking about like Israel and just his people in general. Okay, their branches have become white. Wail like a virgin girded with sackcloth for the bridegroom of her youth. This reminds me of the church and Jesus being the bridegroom. I'm not saying that's what it is, just as I read it, it kind of reminded me of that. The grain offering and the drink offering are cut off from the house of the Lord. I bracketed that. And today there is no temple, so they're not offering these things in the temple. So today this is very true. See what I mean? The priests mourn and the priests mourn the ministers of the Lord. The field is ruined, the land mourns, for the grain is ruined, and new wine dries up. fresh oil fails. Be ashamed, O farmers, wail, O vine dressers, for the wheat and the barley, because the harvest of the field is destroyed. And I don't know if this talks about, because Jesus says in the Gospels about the field being white for the harvest, and he was talking about Samaria. But this kind of makes me feel like it could be talking about that as well. The vine dries up and the fig tree fails, the pomegranate and the palm also, and the apple tree. All the trees of the field dry up. All. Okay. Indeed, rejoicing dries up from the sons of men. Wow, that's a different statement from trees. See what I mean? Gird yourselves with sackcloth and lament, O priests. Wail, O ministers of the altar. Come, spend the night in sackcloth, O ministers of my Lord. For the grain offering and the drink offering are withheld from the house of your Lord. And they are, in a manner. Consecrate a fast. Proclaim a solemn assembly. Gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land to the house of the Lord your God. And cry out to the Lord also for the day. For the day of the Lord is near, and it will come as destruction from the Almighty. Has not food been cut off before your eyes, gladness and joy from the house of our Lord? The seeds shrivel under their clods. The storehouses are desolate. The barns are torn down, for the grain is dried up. How the beasts groan and the herds of cattle wander aimlessly, because there is no pasture for them. I underlined all that. Not all of it, but the herds of cattle wander aimlessly because there is no pasture for them. And it kind of likens me to today, how people wander from one thing to the next, like cattle, because there's no pasture for them, the pasture of the Lord, you know. Even the flocks of sheep suffer, and it specifies sheep are different from cattle, and I think that is an allusion to the church and people who believe in God and Jesus. And yes, so to you, O Lord, I cry, for fire has devoured the pastures of the wilderness, and flame has burned up all the trees of the field. And that's what has happened most literally in our world. We have pretty much cut and burned every tree, you know, for farm fields and this and that, and made it into houses and knocked those down. I mean, but pretty much eventually they all end up burning. So there's that. Even the beasts of the field pant for you, for the water brooks are dried up, and fire has devoured the pastures of the wilderness. And that's the last of Joel chapter 1. But yeah, it's a really good read, and I suggest that spend time going through it. The thing is, I found like all these things that I have underlined or circled or bracketed, I have found references to these in other prophecies in other manners, you know what I mean? So I have an idea what these are, so I can kind of put a picture together in my head by the references that are being made to certain things, you know what I mean? So that's what I always say about, you know, suggesting especially, but that you read in the prophets and the Old Testament as well, not just the New Testament, and all these things are referenced in the Old Testament. Like, Jesus doesn't say very much that doesn't match up with something in the Old Testament. If you want to spend enough time searching the Old Testament, you'll find every bit of it, from the law to, you know, and how he broke it down to love God and love man. Okay? You do these two things and you're well. All you got to do is believe in Jesus Christ. That's the other thing. You do that. Okay? Anyway, so thanks for listening to me read Joel chapter 1. God bless.